Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. So we're back on working on the new furnace, Foundry furnace, and this will be, I think, part 3 of that series. And we're going to start working on getting the forms built to pour or cast the refractory for the remainder of the main chamber that will become the for the furnace part there. So a couple of comments before we get into this too far. So I've been planning on building this furnace now for it's been quite a while, and I've been looking at a lot of different ideas on YouTube, out there on the internet or whatever. And I've got a lot of ideas that I'm kind of trying to incorporate into mine. But I'll be completely honest with you guys. A couple of weeks ago now, I saw the furnace that Myford Boy on YouTube built, and I said, wow, that's a really good design. So in the furnace that I'm building, I borrowed a lot of really good ideas that he built, incorporated into his, and how he constructed his. I guess really the design of my furnace that I was planning on building was very similar to what he built in his, but particularly the way he constructed his, where he used the forms and stuff. I got some really good ideas from that, and you're probably going to see some common themes between the furnace that he built and the furnace that I'm in the process of building right here. So if you haven't already and you're interested in Foundry furnaces, I would encourage you to take a look at Myford Boy's channel and look at his build on his furnace, and I think you get an idea of the direction I'm going. His furnace is a little bit smaller than the one I'm building, and quite honestly, I'm trying to build mine where I could potentially melt cast iron in it down the road, where I think he's pretty much just doing aluminum and a little bit of brass. So there are going to be some differences, mostly in size, between what he built and what I built. So right now, I'm working on getting the forms, and I am taking a little bit different approach than he did in his video. So in his video, if you watch it, he actually used some fairly thick sheets of plastic that he could kind of bend into a circle to make the inside and outside forms for his furnace. In my situation, I'm going to actually use some forms that are already circular, and we'll get to that in just a minute here. Another question that's been coming up quite frequently is, do I have some drawings of what I'm trying to build? And the answer is yes and no. I've got some sketches and some things that I'm working off of, but I really don't have a good set of drawings. And I've talked to my buddy Charles Marlin. He's agreed to draw this up for me. We just haven't gotten to that, at least not as I'm filming this. So if he gets something in before I go to publish this video, I may include those drawings in there. But in the meantime, I'm going to kind of show you a sketch here of what I'm going after. And hopefully you guys can maybe visualize what we're trying to do a little bit better. I'm going to zoom you in here to my chicken scratch drawing that I did on the main chamber that we're working on right now. So what you're looking at here is a sectional view of what we're after, and so basically all this stuff is going to be circular. Think of if we were to just take and cut it straight down the middle, and this is kind of what you'd be seeing. Is, like I said, a sectional view. As we've already seen, the base of this is basically a 24-inch diameter circle that's 3 inches thick, and this is all poured refractory material down there in the bottom. So coming up off of that, we're basically going to have a cylinder on the inside. It's 12 inches diameter on the inside, and all in all, it's going to be, I think, 22 inches from the bottom to the top of this inside. But the tops, as you can tell, are going to actually have a little shelf on them, or whatever you want to call this, flange on it that comes out to the same diameter as the bottom. So the top and bottom will both be 24 inches, but there will be a 3-inch area around the inside of this furnace. There'll be a piece of sheet metal that kind of wraps this, and we're going to wrap a fiber blanket around that to give a little bit better insulation in addition to the refractory material. So basically, from my forming standpoint, I've got two tubes that I need to have in here. The first one being a 12-inch tube in the inside that will basically form the inside of the pour, and then we need another tube that is 18 inches in diameter that will fit basically in this section here, and then the final outside part that is 24 inches, and we're going to use that same ring like we used in the bottom, the metal ring, to form that. So for the inner core of the furnace, instead of basically building a cylinder kind of like Myford Boy did in his video out of plastic and having to do a lot of cutting of plywood or whatever to make those forms, I'm just going with a pre-made cylinder here. And basically what this is just a 12-inch diameter form for pouring concrete. Now typically they pour the concrete on the inside of this to make like a pier or a pillar, but in this situation we're going to actually be using the outside of it. So the inside of this is kind of a wax coating. What I'm going to do is, after I get this cut off to length, we're going to come in here and we're going to paint this with a slick surface, and I may even put some wax on that to kind of help it hopefully pull out a little bit easier after casting. But first thing we need to do is we need to cut this tube to length. You know, I got this at Lowe's at the little home center, whatever here, little building supply place. I think it cost about $11 or $12 for this form, and at least in my book, this is a lot easier than going through all the steps, and probably a lot cheaper too, to just use this and to make up the forms like a Myford Boy did. So first step here is we need to cut this off. I think I'm going to need a tube about 24 inches long, and this is considerably longer. And to do that, I'm actually going to cut it here on the table saw. So I got a blade in here. I've taken a piece of plywood and put over here on a fence on the saw, and basically I'm just going to come in here and put this up against the fence and just kind of roll this around on my saw blade to get it to cut in length. And I think that I'll be able to get a plenty good enough cut doing just this. Well, my camera shut off right after I started that first clip, and I didn't realize it, but this is what the larger 18-inch diameter tube is going to be made from. So I found a plastic drum that happens to be 18 inches in diameter, and we're going to use this for that form. I'm going to cut this 18 inches. I already have made one cut. We cut the top of the barrel off. And I did it where it was kind of on this little rib here, so that this is actually going to be the bottom, so it's going to have a little rib there, and there'll be another little rib right here that will maybe give a little more surface area there on that refractory as we do this. So the idea is we're going to use this tube to contain the outside diameter of the pour, and then when it's done, I'll just take a little zip blade and come in here and just cut this plastic down through there, and you should be able to just peel this right off without any problem at all. So again, apologize, missed the first clip cutting the top off, but you get the idea. Same thing that we did before. We're going to come in here and use the fence on the table saw and just saw around. With the forms cut now, next step is we need to be able to cut a hole that's going to go through both the inner and outer forms that will basically allow a pipe to be cast into the refractory lining that my burner will then go into. So, you know, I already know that my pipe diameter is going to be just a little under 3 inches. So I found a piece of 3-inch diameter pipe. This is just some plastic pipe, nothing special about it. Anything could be used. Could use metal. You could use cardboard. But anyway, this was something I was able to find, and this is going to be perfect. But getting this hole through the liner and through my forms does prove to have a few challenges, because basically you're intersecting two cylinders, an inner form and the outer form, with another cylinder, and it's not coming straight onto the end, but it's going to be kind of offset to the side. So here's kind of a drawing that shows what I'm talking about, and if you look at this drawing, you can see the shape that has to be cut out in the inner and outer form is a rather unusual shape. So again, drawing some inspiration from Myford Boy's channel, where he had the same problem, and he came up with a rather unique solution where he basically created some paper forms that had basically the right shape around this, and he did that using a drafting technique, pen and paper, drawing on paper, where he did some transitions of some lines, and basically was able to draw out a template that he used to trace around it. I thought it was a very unique and a very good solution to the problem, but I didn't really want to take the time to draw it all out by hand. I could have. Back in my high school days, I took a lot of drafting courses, and I'm familiar with the technique that he used, but I don't have a drafting table and T-squares and saw that set up anymore. So I said, well, I'll do the next best thing. We can draw it up in the computer. So I contacted, again, my buddy Charles Marlin, who is a SolidWorks guru, and has done a lot of drawing for me. And I presented him with the same challenge, showed him, let him go look at Myford Boy's channel. I said, can you draw me out some templates using SolidWorks that I can just cut out and go in there and use? And he said, yeah, I think he can do that. So he said it took him about 20 minutes, and Charles, I think, is going to maybe try to put a video together where he shows how he did that in SolidWorks. So if anybody out there wants to see how that's done, he can do it. But at the end of the day, he sent me some templates that I could just print out on my printer in full scale, cut them out with a pair of scissors, and tape them up to form the pipe section that basically wraps right around the form. I don't know if you can see that in the video or not, but that wraps right around the form, and it comes right in where we want it to be. And I did it. In fact, there's the cutout that I traced on this using a Sharpie pen. But as good as a solution as this was, I quickly realized that it did have some drawbacks. And I don't know if you can see it again here or not, but when I tape these tubes up, they don't want to stay round. And this is on cardstock. This isn't on just regular paper. This is some fairly thick cardstock. And two, when I'm tracing it, it's easy to squeeze it. It's hard to keep it lined up. You start your line here, and by the time you get on the bottom, this thing's just moving around. So while I think that is a truly acceptable way of doing it, and obviously Myford Boy did it that way, and he was successful, I said, I think that we can improve upon this idea. And oh, by the way, there's the cutout for the outer form. So we had the two forms, two mock-ups here. So I went back to Charles and I said, instead of drawing up the pipe to use as a template, can we just draw a template that I can just literally glue onto the form itself and then cut out? So again, Charles went back to the drawing board, so to speak, and he sent me a couple of other templates. And this is the template for the inner tube, or inner form. And so basically now, I just cut this off. I'm just going to fold it down to show here. Cut this off. I can take some glue, some spray glue, glue this template to the form, and then just come right in here and cut that out with a jigsaw. And that's exactly what I did. So, after we glued that on there, we punched a hole in it using a little cordless drill, and then I took a scroll saw and just went around and cut that shape out. So same basic principle, same basic idea that Myford Boy did, but again, this is a modified version, and I think that this solution here gives you the exact shape you need without having to go to the trouble of making up forms and then some of the troubles of laying it all out. At the end of the day, we have our holes. They're cut in both the inner form as well as in the outer form, and these are now ready. When you put the tube in, they work great. So the next step in getting these forms set up is I want to have a basically kind of a wooden shelf, or maybe not a shelf, but a wooden piece that kind of fits around this form on both the top and the bottom. Now I don't want any wood on the inside because we want that to be solid refractory down to the bottom, but I do want to kind of have this to number one, hold my barrel in shape and get it positioned on the bottom piece, but also on the top, I need a little shelf out here for that top rim to sit on, and we'll put some supports in here to hold that. So I've got some plywood here. This is just some scrap. I think this is some birch plywood. You could use any kind of material. You know, if I was buying something, some MDF would probably be a little cheaper, but this is some stuff I had laying around. And I've got it set up where I've got a 24-inch square, but it's ripped into two pieces, 12 by 24. And the reason is that when I go to tear this thing apart, instead of having a solid piece that I have to cut and tear apart, I want to just be able to separate the two halves because they'll be kind of coming around that cylinder. And then we'll just take some blocks of wood and just kind of hold them together while we're in there. So first thing I need to do here is I need to cut out the circle. I've measured this, and we're about 18 3/4 of an inch on the outside. I need to draw a circle. I could trace around the drum, but I've noticed that it's not perfectly round. It's kind of I wouldn't say warped, but you know, it's plastic. It bends, and it's not perfectly round. But I want to have a good round surface on this to kind of for it to conform to. So I don't have a compass big enough, but what I do have are some trammel points here. And this particular set of trammels I have actually has on one of them where you can put a pencil in there and basically use it as a compass. So we're going to go ahead and scribe a circle here. So we'll put the trammel point on the center, and again, you know, this is set where I've got a steel piece coming off right here, but it also has where I can just put a pencil in here, which is what I'm going to do. If anybody's interested, this is a Stanley number 4 made by Stanley Tool Company, and we're just going to draw that circle. There we go. Now let's saw that out. To cut this out, I'm going to use my bandsaw. I could just as easily do this with a handheld scroll saw, but since we have the bandsaw, this is the perfect use for it. So we'll just come around to here and try to saw that out, leaving the line. With the forms here cut now on the bottom, I want to go ahead and pull these tight. You can see this barrel is not perfectly round right now. And what we want to do is we want to use this form to kind of pull it up. So I got some simple wood clamps here, and we're going to put them on both sides and snug this thing in. Now with those snug down, I'm going to insert a little block of wood here and screw it in place, and this should hold the two halves together throughout the process. So we did the same thing exactly on the other side. So we just made another form, went ahead and clamped it in, and just flipped it over. So I got one on the bottom. This will actually, the bottom is up right now, but this will sit down flat on the base that we already have. And then what's on the bottom here now will become the top, and this will be what the outer rim sits on that we will pour. But we don't have enough strength in this. There's going to be some weight on the top of this pushing down. So I've taken some 2x4s and just cut some uprights to the right length. And I'm just going to basically take a wood screw and screw these in here. And this right here will basically allow all the weight from the top and bottom to be transferred through these stilts rather than relying on the clamping pressure around the form. So we'll get those in there and screw them down. So let's show how this is all going to go together now. So we got the base down here, and I will say before we actually put the refractory material in here and pour the form that will form where the crucible drops down into, I'm going to take a masonry bit and I'm going to go around here. I'm just going to drill a bunch of holes in the area that this refractory lining is going to go into, and that will kind of give us something to engage into and hopefully give it some strength so that the top piece is sitting on top of this base will have something to kind of grip a hold of. We're going to have some mechanical structure to help keep it from moving around as well, but I think that will help. So we got the outside form. Well, first off, I've got this little block here, and I know it's a kind of an odd shape, but this is the same diameter for the inner tube, and this is just kind of sitting in the center. I've got a little tiny hole in here that this screw, it's not really screwed on there, but it's just kind of indexing that little tiny hole. And I'm going to take some double stick tape and just tape this in place so it doesn't move around. But before we do that, let's put the outside form on. And we cut the base on this so that I can line it up. It's 24 inches by 24 inches, kind of like so. I'll fiddle around and get it perfect when we get ready to pour. And then the inside form will then drop down over that little piece in the bottom. And this should be ready and give us enough stability to hold everything in place while we pour. Also, let's see, where's it at? Around the top, we'll have this second ring that will contain the refractory material. And this will have a lip going all the way around the outside of the top here. That will be also cast with refractory. This diameter matches the one on the bottom, and that's going to leave a little 3-inch gap in between here that we will put a ceramic blanket around for added insulation. So in addition to the 3 inches of refractory, we'll also have 3 inches of a blanket around this to give us added insulation. So we're probably going to be out of time for this video. I'm not going to be able to get this poured this weekend. Just too many things going on, but I did want to kind of show you how we were going to form this up, and we'll do the actual pour probably in the next episode. When it comes time to tear this down, this cardboard form should come out of the center pretty easily. I'll of course pull the wooden parts off of this, and then I'll probably take something, a little zip tool or something, and cut this plastic, and that'll just peel right off the outside. And that should give me a nice core, refractory core in there that we can work around. So that's going to do it for this episode. Hopefully next time you'll see us pouring this refractory on the outside, and we'll be moving right along with this project. Thanks for watching.